Hello, everybody! New week, new call. It's 2023. It's our first webinar this year, and it's going to be one of the most fantastic webinars you will attend this year, right in January. Before we get started, I know you keep adding and activating your live streaming. That's a live on several platforms on Facebook, YouTube, wherever, guys, you're watching us. Make sure you understand that you can comment, and we can see every comment that you do. A lot of you will watch or rewatch a replay. You're gonna see this on recordings. The same way, you can put a comment. We will follow up with you after, especially if you have any questions regarding the content. Try to stay today within the content we're gonna share because it's going to be fantastic, and it's some of the things will a life-changing opportunity for your Amazon business. And before we get started, I will give you a little promotion and a little information that we have developed for Amazon, for active Amazon sellers. Amazon owes you a ton of money when they do incorrect refunds. They send incorrectly money to the buyers. They lost your inventory, and we can do it. We can recover all these funds for you guys absolutely free with no fees, no hidden agendas, and it's very simple. Once you register for sellerize.com, you will see exactly how much money Amazon owes you. You will choose what exact amount of or what exact problem you want to reimburse from Amazon, and then you just click create the case, and it's pretty much done. So there's almost no manual work required. It's automatic synchronization with your Amazon store, and as I told you, it's absolutely free. We don't charge any commissions. You can do it yourself. You will spend like a few minutes per week and don't pay anything else to the agencies or any companies who will charge you percentage. So it's a great way for optimize, especially Amazon has a limited your time on amount of when you can request money back from Amazon. I can show you like one of the examples that I got from one of our users. They lost $33,000 by Amazon because now it's 18 months older cases. They just didn't take enough time to focus on this, and they didn't have Sellerize back in the days. So now you just register. You can see how much money Amazon owes you. You act fast to make sure all your money reimbursed by Amazon, and then you decide if you want to continue going with Sellerize, because we have about 17 different tools that help to optimize and grow your Amazon business. With the coupon code DIMA10, you will have a 7 days free trial, and you're gonna get 10% off for entire year for your usage. And once again, just guys, make sure you just go register, see how much money Amazon owes you, get this money back, and that's the fastest way for you to check if everything is fine. And on another hand, we have another cool offer for you. We have a ASAP warehouse. It's a warehouse that runs under my team. We do order fulfillment, removals. We really optimize with the drop shipping, repackaging, and bundling. Any type of service that you need with your inventory adjustments or operations improvements, you can reach out to us by going to our website or just phone or Telegram. We have plenty of ways to contact us. So just want to make sure you guys understand that we are a professional company for those who needs logistical or fulfillment operations improvements. And with all this information being said, I want to present one of my good friends or good friend. He's just absolutely a killer of Amazon growth. He did more than 8-figure last year, and he sold few businesses on Amazon. He also actively helping to grow businesses to other Amazon sellers, and has an agency that he's gonna present today as well. He's gonna share with you what type of results they're achieving for their clients. Please welcome Nick Young. Nick, Mike is yours.
Hey, Dima, thank you so much for having me on the call, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for quite a long time, so super excited to finally hop on this podcast with you.
Yeah, the best trip I remember was in Italy when we took
Oh,
this
that's
train
so
at
fun.
night. That was fun. Remember, we got stuck in some Italian village, and we tried to find a taxi to go back, which
That's
was
right.
about like 2 hours drive. We couldn't find it, so we went to the train station and we took a train for like 2 hours or 3 hours. It was like
Yeah,
insane trip.
it
It was
was funny.
awesome. So like yeah,
Yeah.
that was like
Uh,
a real entrepreneurial solution solving trip.
Totally. That was like one of the best mastermind trips. We got
Yeah, yeah.
to see the view in Italy and then talk about Amazon stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah, and learn
But
and
yeah,
learn
go ahead.
yeah, and learn about these Italians, how they drive. I remember the Leo was with us. He was driving
That's
like a
right.
maniac. I said like, where we're Russian?
Yeah, he's like, that's
It's
just
like
Italians, you know?
yeah, probably that's how things works. Okay,
Exactly.
so tell me what you're up to nowadays. Like what we're gonna talk today for this webinar.
Yeah, so look, I've been selling on Amazon since 2014. I'm happy to do a quick intro. It's in my slides as well. But yeah, I've been selling on Amazon since 2014, and through the years, Amazon has obviously evolved so much. And so it used to be that Amazon was this place where you could do all these black hat things and do all these tricks, and it's kind of like the golden era, I guess, right, of being able to be successful on Amazon. But it's become a lot more sophisticated through the years. And so really what I'm going to be talking about today is, after having worked with, multitude of brands, launched over 500 products, mixture of our own and for our clients, kind of what we found in terms of how Amazon has evolved, where it's at now, and how a client or how a customer or how a brand can really drive success on Amazon by leveraging what really works on the platform now. And so really it comes down to two key metrics, which is click-through rate and conversion rate. And so really analyzing kind of the details of what that means, how that impacts brands, and what you can do to actually impact those changes to drive success in 2023. So that's what I'm going to be touching on today.
Nick, I remember the biggest part I learned from you when you was presenting one of the cool hacks. It's how you hire and delegate everything to a team. That was insanely valuable for me back in the days. How you was
Oh, thank
explaining
you.
the operations and how you grow like in no time to 70 employees and hire. And the entire your hiring process was completely insane. So I think if with this leverage you executing fundamental things in Amazon, that's probably no-brainer that you're gonna just win. So okay, let's
Oh,
just
thanks,
jump on your
man.
presentation
Let's do it.
and see. Okay, do you know how to activate? Okay, I'll do it
I don't
here.
know. How do I? Okay, cool. All right, we got to activate it. Awesome. So the title of my presentation is just the golden metrics for driving success on Amazon, click conversion rate and click through rate, and how to really make it work for your brand. So I'll give you guys. Let me see. Is it going to slide two? A quick overview about myself, and then we can dive into the meat of the presentation. So my name is Nick. I'm the co-founder of Marketplace Ops and Pixelfy.me. We actually sold that a few years ago. But I've had two exits. One was a software company in the Amazon space. Another was a set of brands on Amazon. And so we've been selling since 2014. In total, with our own sales combined with sales for our clients, we've done over $150 million in lifetime sales since 2014, and it's growing year over year. And so based off of that, there's a lot of kind of experience that we've had in terms of understanding how Amazon has evolved as a marketplace, and what is going to drive success now. Really, I spend most of my time now focused on, really growing our agency. And in our agency, we work with a lot of best-in-class CPG companies to help them build and accelerate their presence on Amazon specifically. And so, happy to always have a conversation with anyone who's looking to really expand and work with a team that understands strategy and growth on the platform. Now, and these are just some of the brands that we work with. So, happy to dive into that later. Now, so let's really talk about our agenda today. So, to some people, it might seem basic, but really it isn't, because what I find is that it's what drives success in Amazon comes down to Pareto's principle. It's really focusing on the right 20% of the things that's going to drive 80% of the results, and it comes down to these two key factors. So, what we're going to talk about first is click-through rate, because that's the beginning part of how customers find your product, and the second part is conversion rate, and how we analyze it, how you can make improvements, why these matter, and ultimately how you can really structure your ad campaigns for success to really leverage this information. So let's keep going. So first off, again, really fundamental and really basic. Let's first define what click-through rate means. Click-through rate essentially is, the total amount of clicks that you get divided by the total amount of impressions. So for instance, if you get 20 clicks and you get 1,000 impressions, your click-through rate is going to be 2%. Now, the question is, why is click-through rate important now? Why am I really emphasizing this? Well, if you look on the right-hand side, this is an output of about 12 different search pages on Amazon, and everything that's highlighted in red is actually sponsored products, right? And so it's showing that more and more, and it's probably changed since I last did this, but more and more Amazon is becoming kind of a pay-to-play place. And so, it's increasingly important that Amazon is looking at click-through rate as a measure for determining whether your product should be placed organically or in their advertising placement for top of search. Because more products are being added to Amazon every single day, and because there's far less shelf space on the Amazon shelf there used to be, because Amazon is taking up these product placements with sponsored, it also shows that Amazon is more and more leaning on click-through rate as a measure for determining your performance. In addition to that, when you look at the brand analytics data, all that information shows that Amazon measures your performance and where you should be placed based off of your relative click share performance. And so our experience shows that really optimizing for click-through rate is a leading indicator of future performance for a product. A lot of times, you'll find that there are products that somehow have very few reviews, but are just pushing really quickly to the front of the page. They're probably paying for that spot, but in addition to that, over time, if they're able to prove to Amazon that they deserve that spot through a very good click-through rate, relative click-through rate performance, they're going to be able to maintain that position and quickly jump through the rankings. And that's what we've seen time and time again. So that's why I find click-through rate is really, really important. So moving on. So the question then becomes, how do you really effectively measure click-through rate? Well, one of the important things to recognize is that you can't really measure click-through rate, from the business reports information, right? And so really the best and most effective way to measure click-through rate for any product is actually through your advertising campaigns, because that's where you can get that data directly. And so the best way that you can get that conclusive information is by really doing top of search placement. And so in other words, are you paying for top of search? It's going to be expensive, but it's really important, because if you're paying for top of search, you're essentially mimicking being ranked in the top 5 spots. And that's where you can actually get real data about what your true click-through rate is. Because if you're further down the page, naturally your click-through rate is going to be lower, because the chances of conversion into a click are much lower on placements that are further below. So, on the second point, low click-through rate for placements other than top search might mean that you're underbidding, especially when it comes to product pages where you could get below the fold placements, or it means that potential customers aren't finding your ad relevant. And so usually top of search comes with a relatively high click-through rate, above 1.5% in most cases, and a click-through rate below 1% with a top of search impression share above 5% means that your ad is not relevant. So that's a really important component. Being able to dig into this information, I really recommend using the search impression share report on Amazon. A lot of people don't utilize this report, but you can actually see what your impression share percentage is, and what your click-through rate is. And so being able to look at that can help you determine, is your product, does Amazon see your product as relevant for this particular keyword? If not, and you're not meeting these fundamental metrics, then ultimately it means that your product isn't really speaking to the keyword that you're targeting. And that's really important to know. It helps you decide, do I need to re-communicate and reformulate how my product is being communicated, or do I need to just target a completely different set of keywords? And that's going to be really critical for making sure that you're going after the right eyeballs. Okay.
Nick, just a quick question. What do you mean? If your CTR is more than 5%, then your ad is not relevant? Is that what you're saying?
No. So what I'm saying is, if your impression share is above 5%, right, then that means that you're getting enough impressions to make a conclusive decision about your click-through rate and its performance. Because if it's below 5%, you're just not getting enough visibility to really get an accurate click-through rate. So if you're above 5%, it's enough. And then if your CTR is below 1%, then that's usually an indication that it's not relevant. But if let's say,
I understand what you mean.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll move on. Let's keep going. Now, then the question is, why is your CTR poor? Well, the way I think about it is click-through rate is, I like to think of Amazon like and I always tell this to my clients, I like to think of every keyword like an aisle in a grocery store, physically. And so you're there, that's the Amazon shelf for that particular keyword. And really your products are all side by side on this shelf, right, on Amazon's search page. And so, the only way you can really impact click-through rate is through that single impression that a customer has when they're window shopping for a non-branded keyword. And so what do you have? What are the different pieces that play into that? Well, it really comes down to your main image, your price, your title, and reviews. That's what we call the product tile. And so when we go into each one of these, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And coupon code.
Oh yeah, coupon code, exactly. Yeah. So I guess that could play into price as well. That's definitely a factor too. And so when we break these all down, we'll start from the top. Main image. This is really the customer's first impression of your product. Your offer has to be compelling and stand out against your relevant competitors on the shelf. If your product isn't really conveying, that it screams value from that main image, it doesn't capture attention, then it's going to immediately work against you. A good example is like Zesty Paws, right? That's a pet brand. Zesty Paws did a fantastic job because their product wasn't necessarily better, but their product was orange. It really caught your attention versus all the other competitors. And so that just attention component, that subconscious component, will drive a lot of attention. And that's really such an important component of really driving higher click-through rate. Next is price, right? Amazon customers, of course, care about price and value. Does your product scream value, right? And the mixture of the price and your main image, does it look like it's a better offer, a more competitive offer? If it's not priced competitively, then are you communicating the differentiating factors about your product that justify your premium? That's really important because a lot of people assume, oh, my product is the best, right? Sure, when customers get your product, maybe it is the best. But if they're looking and evaluating just based off of what's on the shelf alone, will they know that those are the things that you have and that your product is better? If they don't see that immediately from just that main image and that title or that price, then that's really going to work against you because they're only looking at price effectively.
Yeah, like
Next thing is title. Go ahead.
I usually like to say, like, is it possible through visual on your search results understand that you have some how people will justify the price and justify your benefits that you put into the product? Yeah, if you go inside the listing, maybe you'll find some things that are better, or maybe there's some bonuses you added to the product. Maybe there's like additional mixer, or maybe there's additional stickers you put in. But how are you gonna see it from the main image, from the main search? So this CTR will drop like crazy then.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't emphasize this enough, right? Because that first impression is so critical. And there's so many subconscious factors where people make a decision. For instance, this main image is really great, right? Because it fills up all the white space and it's taller than it is wide. And that's going to show up better on mobile. And people don't think about that. There's a lot of white space on the side for a lot of main images, but customers generally, they think that they're getting more if the product just looks bigger, even if it's not bigger. And these are all just the small little things that are really important. Yeah, it's not logical, but we want to make sure we tackle all those different components. And the next part is the title. Well, 60% on shoppers shop on mobile. So really the primary keyword should be visible early in the title. In some cases, it's not even necessarily important that it's just like the keyword that you're targeting, but it's the differentiating qualities of the product in the beginning part of the title, because customers are only going to see the first 60 characters if they're shopping on mobile. So those differentiating qualities, if you can't communicate that in the main image, they should be communicated in the first part of that title. And of course, reviews. I don't really need to say much here, but bad reviews have to be addressed early on and quickly. And so, gone are the days where you could just push up, a bad product and buy reviews. Your product just has to be good quality, and that's just a bare minimum. If it's not a good quality product, then I would say it's just not really worth investing in making it a success. So that's why, usually when you're navigating, understanding like, well, why is my click-through rate poor? These are the factors that really come into play. And so really analyzing that, understanding, and really doing the work of looking at your main keywords and seeing how your products are placed side by side is going to be really critical for driving that success. And so then the question is, well, now that I have this information, how do I really maximize my click-through rate, right? How will I know? Well, really the answer comes down to polling. Polling. And this, I think, is going to be the new thing the next, let's say, year, 2 years, of really what differentiates okay sellers from great sellers on Amazon. And so, this is essentially what we do, like side by side. And I'll break down like how to really leverage polling to come up with insights that actually improve your click-through rate. So the first thing, if you use a polling platform, usually we recommend 2 different ones. One is PickFu, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. But one of the best ones that we use very frequently is actually Intellivi. And so it's Intellivi.net. I highly recommend it. And they're actually made specifically for Amazon. But essentially what you want to do is you want to first identify who are your most relevant competitors. This is the first step. And it's really important because a lot of people will say, oh, my most relevant competitor is a top seller. Well, that's not always the case, right? Maybe the top seller is cheaper than you significantly. Or maybe, the top seller is a branded product that everyone knows about, right? That's not going to be a direct competitor. And so you want to really understand who are your top competitors from a similar price range, right? Within 15% of your price in any direction, up or down. Similar unique selling points, in other words, targeting similar benefits and features. And then, ideally top performers, but it's not always the case. And choosing those similar products is going to be really critical because you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Now, when you identify those relevant competitors, we do what we call blind poll. In other words, before we even plug in our own product in there, we want to first understand what's important for customers, right? And so we'll actually plug in those competitors we've identified into the poll, using at least 30 respondents per option. So for example, if you have 5 variations, have at least 150 respondents to make it statistically significant. And what's going to happen is when you run this poll, you're now going to get insights about what's important to customers, right? Maybe you figure out, okay, for one competitor, they really like that on this label, it shows all the ingredients on the label. Or on this particular product, the reason people chose this product is because it says organic, And so this is really critical because you'll start uncovering, well, actually, let's say, for instance, all these products are organic, but only one product said it was organic. Well, now you'll notice all these other guys lost because they all offer the same benefit, but only one of them actually said that they're organic. So now great, this is something that I need to mention on the label. It needs to be visible on the label, on the packaging, right? And so getting that insight is going to be so helpful before you plug in your own product, because now you can use those insights to actually then develop, variations of your main image that you want to optimize, right? Now that you understand like this component is important, or maybe they like this color, whatever it might be, you can start incorporating these elements and creating multiple variations. And now you can plug it in a competitive polling comparison poll in IntelliView, for instance, and then see which one seems to work the best. We usually, especially if we're launching a brand new product, we'll work with a designer concurrently and actually send these insights to them. They'll come up with examples, mock them up, and then we'll run the polling campaign, find the one that performs the best, do more variations on that, and keep running the polling until we find a winner. Usually the way we identify a winner is if they win the 40 to 50% of the total clicks. If that's the case, what we found is if it wins 40 to 50% of the total clicks, usually that correlates to very, very incredible performance on the click-through rate side. And that means that we need to do less, advertising from the get-go, and we can actually hit the ground running much faster. So if you can do all this work up front, it's going to be really critical for success down the line. And usually what we do is before we even launch a product or put a product into production, we'll spend about $2,500 on polling at the minimum in order to make sure, that we have this correct and down pat. And it really saves us a lot of time in the long run. Okay. Any questions about the demo before I move on?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
We use new. There's several websites we use Metrics, but I would like to check IntelliView as well. There's plenty of companies that offer the service. So generally speaking, it's just the preference of your it's your
Totally.
preference of what we used to work with. Probably you probably work with IntelliView for so long, correct? I remember
Totally. Yeah.
we was talking about IntelliView like a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been using them for a while, and they've really just like leveled up their platform. So I personally like it, but obviously it just depends on what you're comfortable with. I think the main thing though is it's understanding and being comfortable with how to run effective polling. And I think that's the important component, because if you don't know how to run it effectively, you're not going to get the insights that you want. And so framing the question is really critical. I think I want to also share an anecdote and a story, that I think is really relevant. So as I was really getting to polling, one of the really, I think, important insights that I got is I was reading this book by this guy who worked with large companies to do, blind groups or whatever, to basically get insights. And so this guy worked with a lot of chocolate companies. And so what they kind of uncovered, they were trying to figure out, how do we get more sales from women, right? How do women think about buying chocolate? And when they started doing polling, they realized women, when they talk about chocolate, they feel guilty. And when they feel guilty, they tend to buy the chocolate. And they're like, okay, well, now that when you buy the chocolate, what happens? They started polling them. And then they realized, okay, well, women, you generally, when they buy the chocolate, because they feel guilty, they'll take one bite and throw the rest away. And so that was a fantastic insight. And what ended up coming up as a result of that insight, they started doing single serving chocolate pieces. You see that everywhere now, right? They have just one bite chocolate pieces. And that revolutionized the chocolate industry. But I think that's a perfect example of how when you ask the right questions to customers, instead of saying, hey, which product would you choose? You say, hey, you're looking for, I don't know, some kind of, your gym bag is smelly. What product would you purchase? That allows you to actually get them to suggest what things they think about. Because once you start understanding your customer at a really deep level, then you can start offering benefits that other people aren't touching or tapping into. And that's something that you can, use to differentiate your product and your offering. So again, just, I think it's a really critical component.
It's actually a good example. Really, and I can give you also another one. Like we was selling a collagen powder, and majority of the customers who was buying this, it was like women age of 50, 65. That was our main target audience. And we start to get negative reviews. We're like, what's going on? We thought some like competition attacking us. Sometimes majority of the sellers, the moment they start to get negative reviews, they think someone attacking them. But
Yeah,
you
exactly.
really need to look into your reviews, response,
Totally.
emails that your customers sending to you. And then we realized the person, the woman, when she trying to, and we made a beautiful bottle, like nice jar with a beautiful silver lid. It was custom made. Everything was amazing. We spent a lot of money for the design, and we thought our product is perfect. But what we didn't count that when this woman stays on the kitchen and trying to open this bottle, sometimes her hands are wet. So trying to open this bottle, and it's wide. So what we did, we actually changed the bottle completely. We make it slim, so anyone with a even small hands can open it, and we add a
Smart.
grip. We added the grip on the lid, and since then we reduce almost negative reviews by 80%. There always
Totally.
like people would be who don't like your product regardless you do for the product improvements, but this was a major change for the company, and the company been skyrocketed after that. So it was
I
amazing.
couldn't agree with you more, Dima. I think it's too often people go to, oh, I'm being attacked. I think it's much harder to attack people now than it used to be. So I think most of the time that's not the case. So it really comes down to listening to your customer, understanding the reviews, and being able to adapt to that. I mean, what you did is a perfect example. But oftentimes, I mean, bad reviews come down to what people expect when they buy the product versus what they actually receive. And so being able to make sure that that's matched up rather than there being like a difference between the two is really important for long-term success. And polling can help, uncover those things for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah,
one of the okay. Let's
totally.
continue
Great.
going.
Okay, let's keep going. So next is conversion rate. So obviously, really simple. I think most people know how to define this: total orders divided by total clicks. But you want to rely heavily on CTR when you get top of search placement. And so, conversion rates is the number of orders in proportion number of clicks. And so, how many of your total clicks converted into sales? Now, one of the most important things is that now Amazon is revealing and giving us a lot of additional information that we can actually use to start benchmarking our conversion rate. And so if you use Amazon's Product Opportunity Explorer report, I think that's in the growth section, you can actually go into a specific niche or keyword to find the benchmark for a target keyword. So you can see here the search conversion rate for the past 360 days. And now you can use this as a benchmark for your own advertising conversion rate. So if you're doing top of search placement, you can use this and say, okay, well, what keywords am I actually beating, the benchmark for? And that allows you to actually then, figure out, do I want to crank up my advertising, my budget placement for that product so I can drive more organic sales? Or do I have to actually make improvements to how my product is being communicated if I think that keyword is very relevant? So it's very simple. Again, but going back to that search impression share report, go into that report and you can look on a per keyword basis whether your 7-day conversion rate beats the market conversion rate for that particular keyword. If the answer is yes, check the impression share percentage. Is it low? If so, crank up top of search placement to see if you can drive more visibility to the listing and see whether or not your conversion rate maintains at that level. And if so, then you can drive more budget. If no, prioritize improving your conversion rate percentage so that you can beat the benchmark, right? And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But each additional conversion from this placement is going to help drive more rank, which ultimately will drive more organic sales and cheaper top of search placement. And so naturally, if you're more relevant, your advertising is going to be more efficient, your ACoS is going to be better, but more importantly, you're going to drive that organic placement. And I think that's a really important component because, I think nowadays we rely so much on advertising to drive total sales, but we don't think about advertising as a tool to drive more organic visibility. And that's really what I think we should be focused on going after the right keywords, not any keyword that's going to drive a sale. And so being able to identify this is going to be really critical. And Amazon provides so much information to help us really drill down into prioritizing where we should be taking our actions as a next step. So these are just a couple examples of why your conversion rate is poor. I think most people will know if they're pretty advanced, they've been in the game for a while. But a couple different reasons that come to mind. Maybe the keyword that you decide to go after with top of search is too broad. For instance, if you're selling peach flavored iced tea and your targeted keyword is iced tea, I think maybe a better example is if let's say you sell protein bars and you're going after protein snacks, right? protein snacks isn't going to be the best keyword for you, even though it's a lot of volume, because protein snacks mean so many different things. It could be a protein chip, could be protein chocolate, could be protein bar. So, we want to make sure that we're going after the right keyword. And that's going to lead to better conversion rates. And when I say conversion rates, by the way, I'm specifically talking about advertising, because advertising is the most powerful tool now to driving success, to be able to get that initial visibility. So I'm always referring to PPC conversion rate right now. And in terms of your product detail page, it's not optimized for the targeted keyword. That's a possibility. So, maybe you need to reframe kind of how you're positioning your product, right? Or your listing to speak towards that particular, that particular keyword. Next is your offer isn't convincing enough. Maybe you've been hijacked by another seller with a better offer that's targeting your product detail page. In other words, their product tile is so well optimized that even when a customer is at your listing and they look at the product tile of your competitor, you're losing out because they've communicated so well that their product has a lot of value and has a better differentiated offer. Your most recent reviews are negative. Your photo gallery is not optimized. So, for instance, I see a lot of times people just put images, but it's important that you include text, because our studies show that customers don't really read the bullets. They don't read the description. When it comes to making a purchasing decision, they look at the images, the reviews, the price point, and that's really all they need to really make their decision, right? So if they're looking at the images, you need to make sure that all your images have the same content that your bullets have from a selling point perspective. And so if a customer were to just look at your images alone, would it convince them? And, perfect examples would be things like an us versus them. We often do that because customers are naturally window shopping on Amazon, and having that us versus them slide will help convince them to not have to click out before converting on your listing. So these are just a couple different examples and reasons, which I think, should be pretty obvious to a lot of people who've been selling on Amazon for a while now. But if you're new, these might be helpful. Now, why all this matters? Well, the reason why it's important to focus on this click-through rate and conversion rate from the very beginning is because more relevance means more organic visibility over the long term. It's really a compounding effect. If you can marginally increase, right, your click-through rate by just a small amount, marginally increase your conversion rate by just a small amount, you will compound the effect over the long term, and you will reach kind of your target and your goal faster. It's really kind of winning by just that small amount of numbers to get that placement over your competitor. So every little small point really matters, and the winners are going to be the people who really focus on those small details to drive those marginal improvements over time. So as an example, like if you can increase your conversion rate by just 1% without even changing the amount of traffic you drive to your listing, you can significantly increase the total amount of sales without having to actually drive, or pay for additional traffic coming to your listing. So that's one example. If you're able to increase your click-through rate by just a small amount, you can pay for the same amount of traffic, but you're going to get way more traffic. And just by maintaining a conversion rate, you're going to get more sales. So the mixture of those two is going to drive really impactful results over the long term. It's going to compound really, really effectively. So that's really why it matters. And I think ultimately it's important that Amazon sellers don't get focused on sellers attacking them. They don't get focused on things like giveaways or all these tactics and cheap tricks, because that just doesn't matter anymore, right? Those are really small things, and these are the things that really matter. Amazon has become such an efficient marketplace that really old school tactics are the things that work, as opposed to all these little tips and tricks that people used to focus on. Okay, and so here's an example of just like the results, right? So when we do all the polling and we focus on this is just an example of one product that we've launched for ourselves. And you can see without doing very, very minimal promoted sales, and this is through like our own launch list, right? Within, sorry, my screen is a little small right now, but within the first, you can see month, we already hit close to 200 units for a single product. And this is mostly using advertising, doing a really light launch, right? With just like, a couple different influencers, and some social media. But ultimately you can see we ran out of stock, and then boom, it went up to 200. Now this product does about 350 to 400 units a day after 2 years. But again, it's really the top in its market simply because its image just converts so fantastically well. And this is something that we'd done polling from the very get-go and from the very beginning. With very, and now the advertising is very efficient. We spend very little amount relative to revenue on advertising. So again, if you focus on these particular components, it makes everything over the long run much, much easier. And that's really what I want to encourage everyone to think about as we go into 2023. Okay, so moving on, structuring your ad campaigns for success. So, it's really important. I think, I've gone through and analyzed so many different ad accounts with a lot of different, prospects and clients. And oftentimes what I find is just the way they structure their ad campaigns are not really effective. And so when you don't have a really organized nomenclature for organizing your ad campaigns, it means that it's much more difficult to scale because you don't know what campaigns are performing. You're also not allocating your ad budget towards the right keywords. And so really having the right structure is going to be really critical for breaking out how your product is or your particular ad campaigns are performing. And so, there's no one size fits all approach when it comes to ad grouping, but, you can basically work by actually creating ad groups that contain a few highly relevant keywords that are related or in the same product category. So this is one strategy. You can have different match types as separate ad groups. And then you can split automatic or manual into different campaigns. And that's one way. I think that's a more common way to go about it. But what we actually personally like to do is we actually like to separate it out further. So we like to have one match type in a specific campaign, another match type in a specific campaign for the same products. We might actually have, let's say, 20 to even 50, campaigns for a single product organized by portfolios, because what we like to do is break them out further. In some cases, we might have a single keyword for a single campaign because the only way you can manage a budget is by the campaign level. And so by doing this, it offers way more precision in your targeting and your budgeting for how you're allocating your budget. If you have too many targets in a single campaign, what ends up happening is the keyword that has the most impressions or the most volume is going to get the most limelight, but all the other keywords that might be relevant aren't getting any impressions. And so that's the way we like to organize it. And I think when it comes to the strategy that I discussed earlier, it allows you to really mess around with top search placements, multipliers, so that you can really focus on the right keywords that you're targeting at a given point in time and really affect those changes and measure, how you're performing using, the click-through rate, benchmarks, the conversion rate benchmarks, and also the top of search placement benchmarks. So this is what I really, really recommend. And, that's essentially what we do. And so oftentimes I think, a lot of new sellers make the mistake of running auto campaigns from the very beginning. We oftentimes don't recommend that because auto campaigns don't really do a good job of placing you for the most relevant keywords. Essentially, if your listing isn't trained yet, an auto campaign can really mess with the quality of your listing. So what we do is we often just really focus instead on the top most relevant keywords that we really have done our research on. But in addition to that, it's better to go after phrase and broad match for specific targeted keywords than it would be to do auto from the very beginning. Eventually, once you feel like your listing is really well understood and recognized and it's relevant for those keywords, then it makes more sense to use auto campaigns. But in the beginning, it's not something that we usually want to touch because we have a good sense of where our listing should be and where it should be placed against. And I don't think I have to go too much into detail about how to optimize CPC bids and find the optimal price. I think that's probably going to be pretty standard across the board. But yeah, I think structuring it very specifically around having a ton of different campaigns for a single product is really critical because then you can break out a strategy by at campaign level across the board. So that's it. I guess open for questions, just discussions. Do we have time?
Yeah, and Nick, no, I absolutely agree with you. Especially when we launch a product, we primarily focus on 3 to maximum 5 exact keywords that we're trying to rank at the beginning. So this way we stick to the algorithm correctly, and then once I would say we past a launch phase in a 45-60 days, then we start to enable other campaigns that help us to just expand and just spend more money for testing and other performances.
Totally.
Awesome.
I think what I found also is if you've really done your polling as well, one of the most effective ways beyond even choosing your top 5 to 10 keywords is product targeting. If you've done your research on the competitors that you're targeting, you can actually place those in your product targeting campaign. Start there because now you're tying your product to that competitor. And what's going to happen is if you do really high bid placement, you're actually now going to place for the keywords from a product sponsored targeting perspective for the search terms that they're placed for, and Amazon's going to test you for the keywords that they're ranked for. So you're actually going to get placement much quicker across a bunch of different keywords by associating yourselves with already performing competitors that you've test yourself against. So assuming that you've done the homework, if your relative click-through rate performance is much better from a polling perspective, generally what we've seen is by doing product targeting, you're going to perform really, really well out the gate. And then you can start adding manual keywords, after 1 to 2 weeks of product targeting.
Mhm. Yeah, I like this idea because especially when you go, you get in the algorithm of your competitor. If let's say someone search, I don't know, like for iPhone case, then they found your competitor, they went there and then they see the ASIN targeting there, and they click on you. You get in same ranking juice, I would say,
Exactly.
for conversion. Yeah. Awesome. So, Nick, how many? Let's talk about the product launch. Like, because there's two ways of growing your Amazon business. First, it's launching more products, which is a bit different from sustaining or trying to re-rank what you already have. So,
Hmm.
when you're trying to grow a business, like let's say you acquire a client or you do a consultation, what's your preferred way, launching expanding products or trying to focus on what you already have?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I would say, generally when I'm working with a client, right, it's much more difficult to convince them to launch a new product because, especially if they're a multi-channel brand, they're in retail, operationally it's very difficult for them. So really launching a new product is always something that I think is a great idea because if you can do your research effectively, you can drive so much incremental revenue. But oftentimes we're working on on less resources, and that's a longer term strategy because they have to do a lot of work and invest in product development, all that kind of stuff. And that's something that we can guide them on. But what we try to do, at least immediate short-term things that we can do, is how can we maximize the performance of their current product line. So we take their best sellers. There are some good ideas of creating more cross-platform associations across their entire catalog. So we'll take their bestseller and create virtual bundles across all of their other product lines, so we can get more visibility across their catalog. But in addition to that, we think, okay, we figure out, well, for this particular product, does it make sense for people to do 2-pack or 3-pack potentially, right? Because oftentimes what we find is that, especially if it's a consumable, if we acquired them for that 1-pack, some customers will naturally just want the 2-pack because it's a better value, and that massively improves your overall margins for your product line. So now, in some cases, you'd be surprised, like especially in the supplement space, we do 2-packs, 3-packs, 4-packs, and we get so much additional margin, and we didn't even have to do that much. All we had to do was kit more packs with our manufacturer, and we didn't have to create a whole new product. So those are just examples of how we really maximize performance and margin for that particular product. But obviously, there are so many different things that we can do. Like if we think that, hey, their PPC performance isn't good, maybe they didn't organize their campaigns well, or their particular keywords that they're not performing well that they should be, then we'll do the polling and really maximize and try to figure out what are the different ways that we can unlock more value from there.
Yeah. So another part that I wanna also add is we use bundling and multi-pack strategies to defend our listings. So let's
Yeah,
say if we see our competition targeting our ASINs, and let's say we sell for $20, we do a multi-pack of 4, which is like would be equal to almost $80. So we can do a bit of discount. Maybe we can sell this for 70 or 65. But imagine how much budget we have just to defend our
totally.
listings compared to them. Like we can spend easily $30-40 per sell just to defend our listings, while they cannot even like get close to $10 and
Excellent
spend,
point.
because they're gonna lose money, and for them it's going to be just no winning strategy. So that's kind of what we do. There's a
I
cool
love that
question
idea.
from Sean. When launching a product, how many keywords do you focus on, and how do you decide how many units to push to your list per keyword? How long do you launch? 30 days, 60 days, etc.
Yeah. So when it comes to keywords, I mean, look, I try not to think about it in terms of giveaways anymore because I do think that's kind of like, an old school strategy. I think really, again, when I think about a launch period, I'm thinking about like a 90-day window at minimum, right? Anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. And I think about really, really aggressive advertising because you can essentially replace a giveaway budget with just doing aggressive advertising. And so what I'll do is I will focus, just like what you said, Dima. First, I'll do product targeting, right, for the first 2 weeks. Then I'll have like a list of keywords. Like obviously, you have a keyword tracker. ideally you have 200 to 300 keywords that you're targeting, and you can see which keywords you're moving on the quickest. If you're moving really quick on a keyword, it usually indicates that Amazon has seen that your product is performing relatively better against other competitors in that keyword category. And so I'm going to focus on those keywords first. And so then I, double down on those keywords, really do aggressive advertising because it means I'm already performing for them. And I'm basically validating to Amazon that these are the keywords that I'm performing well on. In addition to that, I will target, let's say 5 to 10 keywords that I think is the most relevant to begin with. Go really aggressive there. I measure my click-through rate and conversion rate performance, and optimize. And I'm just eventually layering in more and more keywords as we go. So every 2 weeks, I then layer in more keywords now that I have a solid base of traffic and my conversion rate is maintained. So, I want to go after broad keywords last, because if I do go after broader or higher volume keywords initially, it's going to really tank my conversion rate. So what I want to do is maintain that high conversion rate for as long as I can for the first 2 months, let's say, and then I can layer in more keywords that are maybe tangentially relevant, and it's not going to tank the performance of my listing. That's the way I think about it. And ultimately, I'm comfortable with a high ACoS, and I'm not looking to break even. If we're trying a brand new product, to break even until like 3 to 4 months in, because I just want to go as aggressive as possible in the advertising. And assuming that I've done my work up front, my click-through rate and conversion rate is really good, over time, it's going to work itself out and it's going to really be a top performer.
Yeah, I just want to add this, and I just want to summarize and tell this to the people again, because sometimes they get lost and they see everybody can want to hear what they want to hear. In terms of like sellers, like as sometimes I explain them a different ways of ranking or keyword research or something else, but they hear completely different information, and I don't know for what reason. But and it's okay. So guys, what Nick told you, he goes aggressively on a product launch, but you have to also understand he spends so much money and preparation to do this. He just said if you miss this number, he spent $2,500 at least on polling. Imagine how much other work he do just to perform and improve his images, his offer, keyword research, and all the steps that him and his agency. It's a huge group of people. I know that what they doing to make things happen. So when he goes aggressively, it means he done so much fundamental things before he start to waste money on ads. And overall, even if he start to do this, he also adjusting a lot. It's a lot of small adjustment throughout this aggressive phase of 30 or 60 days. He said like up to 4 months they do this. But eventually, Nick, like sometimes people love to speak about successful stories, like, hey, now product doing $200 or like 200 sales a day, 300 sales a day, or maybe 50, wherever your metrics or tops. But what do you do when things not going as planned? Like you do the job, like everything looks fine. You priced well. Your reviews not the best. I mean, there, let's say 4.5, which is okay. Maybe there's some people like 4.7, 4.8, but on average, you like market average, and things not going well. Like when you thinking to pull off the trigger, like when you're trying to slow down and adjust or maybe even like discontinue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of things, but yeah, definitely. I mean, we do from time to time have a product that doesn't do well. I mean, we recently actually had one of those, and it was in a new category that we just weren't familiar with. And I think, I think the only thing you can do is really try to mitigate the the downside impact. I think a lot of times people are too aggressive. They think, oh, my product is the best. Not only is the best, I'm so confident I'm going to order 10, 15,000 units, right? And now they're stuck to this product. We've launched so many products that we know that the worst thing to be in is to be stuck with a ton of inventory or a product that doesn't sell. So, what we want to do is we try to minimize the downside impact. Can we actually manage if this product didn't work out? Is it a desirable enough product? Have we merchandised it well enough to where if we just discount it significantly, it's going to sell through and eventually we'll recoup our funds back, maybe take a bit of a hit and a loss. And so those are the things that we try to do and try to mitigate that possibility as much as we can, but obviously anticipate that it may happen and what we're going to do and what our action plan is for that. And so oftentimes, I mean, I think more margin means like if you're a competitive offer and you have more margin, it means you have more room to actually sell through your product if it doesn't work out. So that's really important. I think having good margin from the very beginning is critical. And yeah, and being able to just like cut your losses, let's say 3 to 4 months in, and say, look, we tried everything. These are all the different strategies that we tried, and this isn't working. Let's go ahead and just move through this. And that's really what we're in the process of doing now. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things that we always say is we want to hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. And that's always, I think, a motto that I think everyone should incorporate, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get too stuck on this is definitely going to work, but then they fall in love with the idea of it working rather than being able to face the music, what actually is happening.
Yeah, Nick, awesome. And guys, specifically about keyword research and your plan for ranking, I did a webinar about 2 weeks ago, which you can find on my YouTube channel. I will show it to you later. It's my most recent webinar I did before we did it with Nick, and I specifically talking to you how exactly you should choose your keywords, what metrics you should focus on in terms of conversion per keyword, market availability, like competition levels per keyword. And also you would learn in that webinar that I have previously recorded for you, how many exactly sales, I'm not gonna say giveaways, but how many exactly sales have to go through keyword connected to your ASIN to make sure you rank on the top 3 positions. There's a lot of metrics that I covered in the previous webinar. Some of them are more technical, some are obvious, but if you miss them, then you wouldn't be able to master this game on Amazon. That's something that you have to watch and you have to acquire in your business. Combining with CTR and conversion, what Nick was covering today, that's and polling, that's become a full stack strategy for you. That was fantastic. The last part, I think we would cover this one of the questions. How about video ads and video optimization, Nick? Is there something that you would like to cover on this call?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, look, I think that's a constant work in progress because, Amazon doesn't give you an easy way to A/B test video. But what I actually have found to be really effective is actually creating a video because we use Lumen 5. And that's where you can cut up slides, kind of like what Amazon has, but I think it's a little more advanced. And then so what we do is we'll have like a template slide that we use for particular product. And then we'll actually cut that up specific to the keyword search that a customer is coming from, right? So, for example, we have one product that's like, a formulation of garlic and turmeric and a couple different things. And so, it's a turmeric product, but then it's not only a turmeric product, right? And so what that means is that when we do the video ad, it says not just a turmeric product, and we also have this, this, and this. So that way you can use the video ad as an opportunity to differentiate your product and say how you're different. And now you can do video targeting against particular product listings. So because it's so easy in Lumen 5 to cut up those videos, we'll make sure that we're speaking to that particular search term and saying, hey, we're different and this is what's important for you. These are the additional things that we offer as a benefit. And we've seen fantastic click-through rate performance and ACoS performance as a result of that. So it's really easy to do. I think a lot of people aren't doing that. And you can speak to every kind of search term and segment by being able to cut those videos. And in the first 3 seconds, speaking exactly to them and say, hey, look, you're looking at garlic products, but we also include these things,
Yeah, what I like to say, the videos and the images is for customers. The title and backend search, it's for the algorithm. So
right.
this
Totally.
way you're more relevant, because you need to understand there's a very efficient brain inside Amazon algorithm that they're running right now. That's why what Nick mentioned in the beginning, all these hacks and tricks that used to be shared in the past like 8 to 10 years. People was doing like this. Ooh, then the new hack. Now it comes back to real marketing strategies that you need to put work. That's why it used to be easy to win just by yourself doing all the work. Now the team, the professionals, the agencies, they start to win a lot because they have like I would say a group brain work that they just optimize it and they consistently learning. And also what I love about you, Nick, it's that you have your own products on Amazon. So this way you're not like kind of just providing a service. You're like really into the game. You're really playing with your own chips on a table.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
that's
totally. That's what we
yeah.
tell clients all the time. It's like a lot of agencies, they started off as an agency, but
Mhm.
we not only started off as sellers, we're still sellers. So I think that forces us to constantly test new ideas to stay current.
Mhm. Awesome, guys. That was a perfect webinar. Thank you so much, Nick. I want to give you just a final announcement that I did at the beginning of the call that we have the amazing opportunity for you to get all the money back from Amazon without paying any commissions, and only what you need to do is just register and see how much money Amazon owes you. Even if you're using any company who now serving you as a service provider, it's also fantastic. Just go register and see how efficient they are. If they're efficient and there's zero, because it happened to us before. I was sharing to you previously that one of our users who use Sellerize, he registered and he see that Amazon owes him $577,000, while he has a service provider that charge him percentage, and they charge him some money in, I think it was like a July. They charge him for reimbursements of $100,000, and this money never hit their account. Sellerize spotted, so he paid for subscription, like a lifetime subscription, with this small mistake by the agency, which is okay. You can still use someone else, but if you in 2-3 clicks you can get majority of the money from Amazon with the automated service. That's the way to go. And guys, something that I want to tell you, like we have a group created on a Facebook which is called Private Label Network. We share different hacks, tricks. We run webinars there. It's easy to connect. Please go and join the group. It's called PL Network. You can scan this code and just automatically be added to the group, which would be fantastic to share. There's different guys helping each other. We sharing different content. We run webinars over there, and it's absolutely free to join. So it's a like-minded people, sellers, active sellers who grinding for success. It's not like you joining some group that has a million users that probably end up selling in 2015. So this is the active group. What you guys want me to join the group together and just exchange the knowledge, participate. If you want to just follow me and see all my announcements, there's like a couple QR codes. Or if you want to connect with me directly, it's admin@sellerize.com. That's my email. You can just send me a message if you have like some partnerships, or if you would like to ask some direct questions. I'm always happy to help and give you some additional knowledge. Or you just follow me on YouTube or my Instagram, um, um, which will help you to stay up to date with all the content we're teaching you. Nick, thank you so much for being on call. It's amazing information. How people can get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you, Dima. Yeah, you can just email me, nick@marketplaceops.com. If you're interested in potentially working with us, we have a website form, so feel free to fill it out. We just recently launched like a PPC only service. So if you're looking for someone to manage your advertising, we can definitely have that conversation as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Dima. Again, thanks for having me on the call.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you on the next live webinars. Bye.